welcome to the One Lonely Owl podcast. My name is Terry and I will be your host. Thank you so much for joining me today. If you are new here, thank you so much for giving me a chance. And if you are a returning viewer, thank you so much for returning, even after a very long hiatus. Wanted to say a sincere thank you to everybody who sent any messages of care and concern while I was away from my last video. Thank you so much to anyone who reached out, personally or on the YouTube channel. Thank you so much for that. I really did appreciate it. For those of you that are new here, you will not know that, well, maybe the haircut gives it away. But I had undergone chemotherapy treatment since my last visit with you guys. So the last time, again, if you're new here, my notes I always keep just right here, so you'll see me looking down. The last time I recorded an episode was episode 17 on April 27th, and the last time I recorded a drop-in for a yarn was May 15th. I started chemo treatments just shy of 2 weeks after my last drop-in for a yarn, so I ended up not recording anything throughout that chemo treatment. Anyone who has done chemotherapy will be able to attest to the fact that it really does a doozy on you. So, I took the time that I needed to rest and recover. I did a lot of sleeping. I had a lot of time at home with my family. I just took care of myself, as my needs were very different at the time as they are now. So my final chemotherapy treatment, I rang the bell. Maybe if I can figure out how, I don't really know how, I'll insert a little video right here. I'll put a picture of me ringing the bell.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. I finished my final chemotherapy treatment. I had 11 in total on July 17th. And it was a big day. I was very, very happy to be finished. So, having said all of that, I want to say, first of all, please be patient with me. This has been a few months, because right now I'm recording on August the 2nd, and I will hopefully be able to upload it today. If not, I will upload it as soon as I'm done recording and get it edited and whatnot. I'll get it up as quickly as I possibly can, but please bear with me because it has been a while. I've been out of the limelight for a little bit, haven't been in front of a camera for a while, so I may be a little bit bumbly and stumbly with my words. I may be a little bit out of practice, but thank you again for joining me, and thank you so much for sticking it out and just coming back when you didn't think I was going to be around for a while. So thank you. The final thing that I want to apologize for is the lack of content, because there is not very much content. I will be doing a lot more chatting about things like life and things that have happened in my personal life rather than knitting content, because there is not very much knitting content. But yeah, so with that, we're just going to dive right in, and we're going to start with the first segment, which is called Mug Up. I don't have my water bottle with me, but I literally have only been drinking water. The first thing that I will share with you in my personal life with respect to Mug Up is that I had, when was my kidney stuff? I feel like I haven't spoken to you since I had some kidney troubles. So I ended up in the emergency room with a kidney stone, and I'd had several surgeries to get it removed. I have kidney stents put in so that my kidneys can function properly. I had stents put in, several cystoscopies to try to get the kidney stones, and ultimately I ended up with nephrology tubes. So those are tubes that come out of your back to help calm my kidneys down. My kidneys have had a lot of trouble with all of the chemotherapy that I had been undergoing, and so I ended up having to cut tea out of my diet. Tea has what's called oxalate, and any foods or drinks that have oxalate in them are according to my doctor anyway, are they're at risk for basically increasing your chance of having kidney stones. So I won't be drinking too much tea, although it pains me to say that because I do love a nice cup of tea. I will be drinking a heck of a lot more water. I will be doing more hydrating than anything else. So you won't see me doing much drinking of tea on this podcast from here on out. I have been told that herbal teas are fine, so maybe you'll see me with a cup of just peachy every once in a while, but just kind of wanted to share that with you and the reasoning for it. The next segment is called La, where I talk about what I'm wearing. I am not wearing any knitwear this day. It is very, very warm outside. I don't know the actual temperature. Let me just check what it is right now. So it is currently 25 degrees Celsius. I'm sorry, I don't know what that is in Fahrenheit. If there are any other countries that are watching that measure in Fahrenheit, I don't know. I don't know what 25 degrees Celsius is, but it's warm. So I don't wear knitwear typically on warm days. And just for those of you that are aware, if you've been watching any of the news, you may have heard about the wildfires in Jasper. There has been a massive heat wave in Alberta where I live, and Jasper National Park has had a massive wildfire go through the town and the town site and the national park, and it's been absolutely devastating. So if you're not familiar, I'm sure if you Google Jasper National Park, you will see that there have been massive fires there. And one of the main reasons is the heat wave and the dryness that has been in our province over the last several weeks. So no knitwear for me today. So see what I mean? There's not a lot of content. I'm going to go through each segment and tell you why I haven't got anything in there. The next segment is called Whatta Ya At. Whatta Ya At is where we talk about what I'm knitting on. I have been solely working on the Jelly Roll Blanket by Kay Jones of the Bakery Bears. So I will show you a little bit of progress on that. The last time I showed it to you was during my drop-in for yarn when I was out at the front on my front deck. And I was working on the white, I call it the white segment that has the pink and blue, whoops, oh what a mess I've got made here. The pink and blue speckles. Bear with me for 1 second. Get out of there. Whoops. Anyway. So now I have, let's just put this here. I have the green section, the pink section, the white section is now complete. And like I said, the last time you saw it, it was, maybe an inch of the white section that I had finished. And now I'm on to another sort of blue-green section. Now that is bringing me to 4 mini skeins tall, I guess is how I would describe it. I have not decided how long I'm going to make it. I did talk about this on the drop-in for yarn, where I talked about how my plan was to make it as tall, at least as tall as I am, so that I can cuddle up with it on the couch. And I believe that's still my plan, although I think I may end up doing more than how tall I am, if that makes any sense. I do want to make sure I've got extra room, and oh my goodness, what is that? Looks like my dog may have gotten to this and maybe has, yep, he definitely made a mess of it. So I'm going to roll it up a little bit and hopefully I'll be able to salvage the mess that he's made here. I just noticed that there is a split and a cut in a couple of the strands of the yarn. So that leads me to believe that my dog has been playing with this. And I think I'm right, because it is a mess. Yep. There we go. There's the end of it. Great. Well, at least I can finish it up and still salvage whatever this is. What a turkey, that dog. So yeah, the Jelly Roll Blanket. Oh, there's another chunk. The Jelly Roll Blanket by Kay Jones of the Bakery Bears. The inspiration for this one came from Kevin and Ray from the Needles at the Ready podcast. And oh my gosh, what a mess he's made of this. There's knots and splits and tears all over the place. Anyway, I will get to that later. So the inspiration for this one, it comes from Ray and Kevin from Needles at the Ready. I have been using my Yarn Indulgences mini skeins, and I will share that in my last episode, or my last installment, I shared that I had been using Yarn Indulgences, and I said that they were from Ontario. I did correct that in the podcast. They are not from Ontario. They're from New Brunswick, on the east coast of Canada. But just wanted to share a little bit of that with you, because I have made a fair bit of progress on it. Although so has my dog, so I need to get back at that and then fix up what the mess he's made. All right. Yes By. So in Yes By, the last couple of finished objects that I shared in the drop-in for a yarn, I will share here just because it wasn't an official podcast that I wrote, or that I shared that. These are the, I believe the pattern is called Grandma's Favorite Dishcloth. This is a dishcloth that I shared in the drop-in for a yarn. I used to make those for my grandmother all the time. Absolutely love them myself, and I know a lot of people that do love them, so I make them for friends and family, and I just sort of tuck them away. And I have them all over the place so that I can give them away as gifts, or I can restock my own kitchen if I need to. But I made those with Lily Sugar and Cream, which if you watched the last drop-in for a yarn, you will know that I had a really hard time trying to remember that. That's one of the things with chemotherapy that really plays with you, is that you have absolutely no control over your brain, it seems, and you end up with brain fog like nobody's business. So I ended up trying to remember Lily Sugar and Cream, and it just would not come to me. Which is funny now. At the time it was kind of frustrating, but anyway, just wanted to clear that up. So Lily Sugar and Cream in a sort of a burnt orange colorway. I made some Grandma's Favorite Dishcloths. I have also been doing a lot of reading, so I'll talk a little bit about that later on in Jiggs and Reels, but I found, and this is the part where I wanted to spend a little bit of time talking about personal things. I personally have found it's really, really challenging for me when I'm going through something medically, or when I'm going through something, period, you know, whether it's a physical ailment, or if it's something psychological or mental health wise. I find it really challenging to pick up my knitting, particularly if it's something that requires a lot of effort or thought. And I know I'm speaking to the choir when I share this, because I know that a lot of you out there that have been watching probably experience the same thing, where you go through ebbs and flows of where you feel like you want to do a lot of knitting and where you feel like sometimes you don't want to do any at all. I really just wanted to acknowledge that early on in the stages of my chemotherapy, I was really beating myself up over the fact that I was hoping that I was going to get all this knitting done because I was going to have all this time to myself, and I was going to be feeling like crap, and this was going to actually help me feel better. And then when I finally got to it, I had absolutely no desire to do any knitting whatsoever. So again, at first I kind of beat myself up over it. And then as time went on, I really just allowed myself the space and the time to do what it was that was really filling up my cup. And for whatever reason at the time, knitting wasn't it. If you need this, and I don't think you do, but some people may feel the need, if you need this, this is your permission slip to do what fills up your cup, as opposed to doing something that you feel like you should. I've been joking about this flax sock, the flax light sweater that's been on the needles since the beginning of the podcast, I might add. Since before the beginning of the podcast, which is over a year ago now. My podcast anniversary was July 17th, so happy 1 year anniversary to One Lonely Owl. It's been on the needles ever since then, and it still sits and languishing, and it's actually sitting right next to me right here. I haven't touched it since the last time I spoke to you. And I don't plan on pushing myself to do something that I don't get joy out of. And for anyone who, we joke about Sleeve Island, I'm on Sleeve Island and I've only got, maybe half of a sleeve left to do, and I'm just not, maybe not half a sleeve, maybe a sleeve and a half, I think. It's just not in my wheelhouse at the moment to think about how many rows I have to do before I do a decrease, etc., etc. So I'm doing the jelly roll blanket, and I'm doing very little of the jelly roll blanket as it is. But for right now, I just want to do things that I find joy and that give me peace and comfort. And like I said, this, if you need it, this is your permission slip to do the same thing. If there's just something that isn't, whether it's painting or calligraphy or knitting a sock, knitting a dishcloth, knitting 100 dishcloths, whatever works for you. You have my permission to go ahead and just do that. Again, not like you needed my permission, but sometimes if you hear it from somebody else, it just gives you the go ahead, I guess, to let go of the things that you've been holding on to, like in my case, the flax light. So lots of reading was happening. I've been doing a ton of reading. Again, not as much as I generally do, but I was doing more reading than I was doing anything else. So later on, when I talk about Jiggs and Reels, where I share some of the books and stuff, you'll see that I've read a fair few books, and I've probably missed a bunch. I just sort of did the ones that I could remember off the top of my head. And yeah, so I'll share a little bit of those when we get there. Twacking. I've still stuck to my guns, and I have not purchased anything yarn or knitting related this year. So I just want to put that out there because I'm still super proud of it, and I'm over halfway through the year and I still haven't done anything. Having said that, I really need to do a shout out to Polka Dot Creek. Polka Dot Creek Boutique has opened in Cochrane, and today, the day that I'm recording, is actually her opening day. And it breaks my heart that I'm not there. So a shout out to Shelly and the team from Polka Dot Creek. Hi Shelly. Hi everybody at Polka Dot Creek. Thank you so much for keeping our yarn business alive. And thank you for putting another yarn store within driving distance of my house. Shelly probably doesn't know this, but I'm about halfway between both Polka Dot Creek Boutique and Polka Dot Creek Yarn in Airdrie. So if you are local to the area, please feel free to go check her out. I think you're not going to see this in time because she's going to be closed by then, but she had a bunch of really fun stuff going on there today for the opening day. So yeah, that was part of my twacking. I have not been twacking. I have not gone shopping. I have not purchased any yarn related things, and that has been intentional for me this year. I have bought a couple of one board game and one card game that I'm really excited to play with some friends and some neighbors, and really that's been the only purchase that I have. And again, that will come up again later on in Best Kind when I talk a little bit about spending some time with friends and family. Now to Once. Now to Once is the next segment, where this segment we talk about what I plan to do. Now, I've just finished talking about how I'm not going to put pressure on myself and how I'm not actually going to be, pushing myself to do particular projects or things like that. Excuse me, I will share that I did see that Knititude, so Chantel from Knititude, who is local to me, she lives in Calgary, and I mean, there's probably no introduction necessary because she's very well known in the knitting and the yarn community. She released or put out a post the other day about a skirt, and it was in a beautiful sort of a hunter foresty green color, and I absolutely loved it. And if you're new here, you won't know this, but way back at the beginning of the podcast, I was talking about knitting a skirt. I still want to do that, and I haven't yet done that. So that might be the next thing that I pick up on my needles. I'm not 100% sure. There is another sweater that that's just sort of been in my periphery for a while. The one with my Arctic Crafts yarn, Grab Your Drank. The one, what is it called? The sock arm sweater. I've got a kit from Polka Dot Creek for that. So I've got a few things, again, just sort of my wish knitting if I ever do get there, the knitting that's in my periphery. But I'm not going to push myself. I'm not going to pressure myself into doing anything like that. But those are some of the ideas that I've been thinking about. Basically anything that comes to mind that brings me joy. Being that it is a heat wave at the moment and still quite warm where I live, I'm probably not going to be doing any big heavy knitting. I'm likely going to continue knitting my jelly roll blanket. I think I've got a pair of socks on the needle somewhere. I've got a vest that I started that it's sitting over there, and I haven't touched it since. So I've got lots that I could be working on. I just haven't done any of those. Haven't worked on the things that are already on the needles. I haven't worked on any of my whips. Let's use the language. And I don't particularly have anything in mind that is really calling for me right now. So when it calls to me, I'll pick it up. For now, what seems to be calling, especially now that I know that there's been a couple of breaks in my yarn thanks to my pup, will likely be my jelly roll blanket. All right, now on to Jiggs and Reels. Jiggs and Reels is where most of my content is today. Jiggs and Reels is where we talk a little bit about the things that I'm watching, reading, listening to, any shows, any music that has been in the forefront since my last podcast or since my last episode, so the drop in for a yarn. I will be honest, I haven't paid attention really to what I've been watching. I did watch a show with Jake Gyllenhaal called Presumed Innocent on Apple TV. I quite enjoyed that. I think it was only 8 episodes. There wasn't a ton to go. Like, it was only one season. It was only 8 episodes. So, but I quite like that. If that's something that you're into, he plays a lawyer who is accused of killing somebody that was a co-worker of his, but also somebody that he was having an affair with. So, I guess I probably should have said spoiler alert in the first couple of episodes. I don't think you know that. Sorry about that. So that was a good show. I enjoyed that. And then that has been really all I've been watching. Other than I think I watched some Below Deck Sailing Yacht. Nothing, some garbage TV, I call it, like reality type stuff that I just sort of put on in the background while I'm doing something else. The music that I've been listening to, I have been listening to Corey Tedford almost exclusively. I have not been listening to a lot of YouTube or anything at home, mostly because, like I said earlier, I've been spending a lot of my time resting and taking care of my body. So what that meant, or what that means is that I've been spending a lot of time asleep, so I haven't really spent a lot of time watching videos or doing anything. The other thing that I have been doing is scrolling sort of aimlessly, which I don't particularly recommend, but I would find something, like I'd find somebody that would make me laugh, and I would just go onto their page and I would just scroll on their page for hours at a time and just spend some time laughing. So if that's something that you need to do, I would recommend you find somebody that you find funny and go in there and just laugh your head off for a little while, because that's what helped me get through some of my toughest times. And now, the list of books. So the first one that I will share is The Forever Interrupted by Taylor Jenkins Reid. Really enjoyed that. Lost Flowers of Alice Hart by Holly Ringland, I think. Also really enjoyed that one. That one was by an Australian author, and it wasn't my typical read, but I really enjoyed it. The Whispers by Ashley Audrain. I'm going to come back to that one because it wasn't my favorite. I've read a couple of books by her now, and I'm probably not going to read anymore, but I'll explain that in just a little bit. 28 Summers by Elin Hildebrand. Again, I guess I won't come back to it. I'll share right now that I really wanted to love 28 Summers. It's a bit of a romance novel, not really romance novel, but it's set in Nantucket. It's really wonderful, romantic, and sweet. I won't spoil it for you if you do plan to read it, but I will share that there is an element of the book that sort of goes throughout the entire book that I really can't get by. I cannot get over the fact that this is what the situation is. And so, again, as much as I really wanted to love it, I liked the book, I liked the writing, I liked the style. I could not get over this one particular fact in the book that is throughout the entire book. So that's 28 Summers. I would still recommend you read it if you want to read it. It was one of our book club picks for our summer reads. We like to pick sort of fluffy, nice, easy summer reads for our book club. And yeah, that one was definitely a nice fluffy summer read. The Whispers. Okay, so back to The Whispers by Ashley Audrain. I read The Push by her as well. I do not like the writing style. I don't like how it's written in the third person, and I just can't. Basically what happens is there's some sort of situation, I guess you'd call it a mystery. It's not a murder mystery per se, but it's a mystery where something happens at the beginning of the book, and then you spend the whole book sort of getting to know characters, and there's a bit of a who did what and how are these people related and all that sort of stuff. And then at the end of the book you find out what the real, like what actually happened. I just don't like that particular style. So if that's something that you are interested in, obviously go ahead and read both of her books. I think they're both pretty popular because it took me a while to get them from my library. But I don't think I'm going to read any more from her just because I think it's a typical style. Like that's how she typically writes her books, and it's just not really how I like to consume my content. The two books that I'm currently reading, I will share with you. I believe I finished a Louise penny before this one. I don't remember what it was called. It was the one before this particular book, but let's see if it's in here. Glass Houses and A Great Reckoning. So I don't know how far back it goes, but so far the books in order are Still Life, A Fatal Grace, The Cruelest Month, A Rule Against Murder, The Brutal Telling, Bury Your Dead, A Trick of the Light, The Beautiful Mystery, How the Light Gets In, The Long Way Home, The Nature of the Beast, A Great Reckoning, and Glass Houses. And then this one is Kingdom of the Blind. So this one I'm about halfway through. Again, I always have a Louise penny on the go because I really love her stuff. She writes all kinds of things, but this particular book is the Armand Gamache series. Armand Gamache plays, or I guess he doesn't play, he is a character in her books who is the head of the police force in Quebec, and it sort of follows him through a village where he lives called Three Pines. Anyway, really enjoy Louise penny, so I've always got one of hers on the go. And then this one is Kate Quinn, The Briar Club. Same thing. I love Kate Quinn. I will read anything that she writes. This is the most recent one. She wrote a bunch that I've read before. What was it called? The Diamond Eye, The Rose Code, and the Alice Network I've read and talked about before on here. This one, The Briar Club, I'm only probably 50 pages or so in, so I'm not exactly sure how the book turns out, but I love her stuff, so I will continue to read those. All right. Next we have Best Kind. Best Kind is where we talk about the things that are filling up my cup. So the things that I like to do that give me joy, bring me joy, and help me feel like I have a fulfilling life. So I will share, as always, my family and my friends, and spending time with those people that mean the world to me is the number one thing that fills up my cup. I'm sure that that's no surprise to anybody. If anybody out there has spent any time with me, if you've watched the episodes here, you've heard me speak of my friends and my family a fair bit, because that is where I spend most of my time and what does fill up my cup. What I will share is, because it's been summer and we have been spending a lot of time outdoors, some of the things that I've been doing with my children. So we've been going to some splash parks. We've been visiting my parents. My kids went to visit my parents for a week while I had a chemotherapy treatment done. The splash park in Spruce Grove, where my family lives, was absolutely lovely. I went up there for a couple of days and we sat in the shade and spent some time at the splash park. My kids went to their local pool. I didn't end up going there, but they went with my brother, which just that alone fills up my bucket, because it makes me feel like my family loves my children just as much as I do. We did a trampoline park. That was a lot of fun. We have, what else? We've went out and got milkshakes. We'll go and grab a milkshake and just spend some time in the park. It's just been an absolutely lovely summer. The other thing that we've been spending some time in the backyard. So we live on an acreage and we have a fairly large backyard. So my kids will play with, fake bow and arrows and drones. The backyard pool, we have a little wading pool that we will fill for them. We've just had such a wonderful summer so far. The other thing that is a solo activity that I really, really enjoy, which is evident by the previous episode, the previous previous segment where I talk about all my reading, is reading on the back deck. I purchased some patio furniture this year, so we've got some lovely little cushioned couches and chairs that I can sit or even lay down on and read my book. I also purchased a hammock, so I've been laying in the hammock as well and reading and just enjoying being outside and getting some wonderful vitamin D. In case anybody's wondering, I always wear a hat because my poor little head wouldn't be able to handle the sun, and I also wear sunscreen, so if anybody's worried, don't worry about that. Well, that was not too bad considering I didn't have a ton of stuff to share. So it was probably a bit of a shorter episode, but it has been a little longer than I anticipated it to be. I will leave you there with, until next time, keep living your best life and filling up your cup, and I'll see you in 2 weeks. I'm going to say that. I should be able to see you in 2 weeks, but as always, it comes with a caveat with my health. My health comes first. Until then, stay where you're to till it comes where you're at. Bye.